Hi everyone, this is the Incept CONNECT Podcast. I am John Osberg of Incept Digital here in downtown Buffalo, New York. Today I am joined by two great community leaders, actually family of Team Incept here on my right, but also just great people who are doing the right thing and serving others both in, or really in the Rochester market and in Western New York. And that is none other than Tamara and Angela Wollschlager of Adaptt Rochester. I was just saying before we started recording that it's our first time meeting, so it's nice to connect here on a podcast. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you and have you in the office. And Eric, our resident creative expert and guru, connected us, your brother, and really excited to have you in the office today to talk about the things you're doing with Adaptt. So let's jump right in and let's get some intros going. So if we could just share a bit about yourself, whoever wants to start. About kind of your journey to now and what now looks like for you.
Sure. I'll start.
Please. Yeah, that's good.
Eric's little sister, Angela, and I've been in human services for the last few years, and I have my bachelor's in social work. Tamara and I were working together at a transitional home in Rochester, and we just kind of started noticing some of the gaps in services. And although we are a resource-rich community, how it tended to be very cyclical.
Sure.
And we started to kind of put together some of the pieces that we felt would really help these families thrive. Mm-hmm. And we decided, hey, let's just do this. So we came out with Adaptt Rochester, and we started to build the foundation and start to develop the pieces of our organization. Mm-hmm. And right now we have been approved for our 501c3 in May.
Congrats.
And so we're working on securing funding and just growing our two first initiatives and kind of going from there.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Tamara.
My background is in human service and social work. I actually started on the employment side of just trying to build resumes and get work experience for families. And then transferred to the services side of helping them get services. But like Angela mentioned, Rochester's resource rich, but for the families to get to the resources, it's difficult. And we are just trying to build a foundation and hold families accountable so that they can grow and not have to rely on the system of services. And Adaptt, we just learned that everybody has a story that we have to adapt to. We can't put them inside a box. We have to meet them where they are.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah, and just for me, as an outsider kind of looking in, I mean, I'm immersed in the community, but I don't think there's ever been a greater need at this point in time of our lives. I think almost in human civilization of needing these resources, right? I see billboards as I'm driving on the highway about, hunger is hard to spot, and things that are becoming more and more prevalent. So identifying those gaps and looking to alleviate some of those misalignments, I think is noble. So without me trying to like pump tires and get excited, I just think it's a beautiful cause and we appreciate it. A guy named Mark Sullivan, he's the CEO of Catholic Health. He said to me once, on behalf of everyone you've impacted positively, I want to thank you on behalf of them. And so I want to thank the both of you for what you're doing to do that because, I look at my own life and I feel that I'm so fortunate. And so I'm blessed, I'm grateful, but I want to do what I can, like yourselves, to impact others. So thank you very much, both of you. Let's jump a bit more into the core of what you're doing. Sure. And, I know we had shared some email notes back and forth. You had some great topics that we wanted to uncover today so that the folks listening and watching can maybe get more involved and have a better understanding of what homelessness and poverty looks like so that we can, again, for the folks that are, that are out there moving and shaking that want to make impact, we can be more aware. And that's part of my hope of today's conversation. So maybe starting there would be great.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah. So it's basically understanding homelessness and being at risk of homeless. There are a lot of families who are homeless, but they're not even counted in the percentages because they're staying with family members or they're doubling up at a home. Children are not having their own beds and sleeping in their own space. So it affects them in school, which then affects all of our future because they are our future. So we've learned even working families are homeless.
Wow.
Working families are at risk of being homeless. So we are trying to build volunteers, mentors, get financial support to help those families learn how to budget, how to manage their money more efficiently so that they can grow and build confidence in them to know they have a future in owning a home. It's a lot of times we just see the information is not there. So just giving them basics and building on that is what we're trying to do.
Can you? I love it. Thank you. What are some of the basics that you would outline for those that are watching, listening?
Yeah. So first, we're starting with health. In the community, health has a big stigma. Yeah. We found that a lot of families that we've serviced, a lot of children we've serviced, are not getting the health care they need. Mental health is ignored, especially in the Black and Hispanic communities. And so just getting that knowledge and addressing that first is a load off of parents and mothers. And then after that, just really taking the time to sit down with families to find their purpose. What do you want to do? What is your gift? And we want to support you in your gift.
That's amazing.
If you want to go to school, it is possible. You can survive and go to school and work and manage a family. And just kind of helping them lay out how that can be done. And then having us support them. So if you are working and going to school and you're short on just hygiene items or anything like that, we're there to supply that for you. If you need a bus pass, we're there to give that to you because those are costs that sometimes hold somebody back from a whole, food or anything. So we just want to be the support that they need until they get where they want to be.
Helping them adapt in their current circumstances so that they can get from A to B.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Angela, what to add?
I guess, we have 2 initiatives that are coming up, and those 2 initiatives, Adapt 100 Kids, specifically, we have noticed in the human service industry, when a family is housed, those kids are, left without a bed, without bedding, without linens. So our goal to kind of support that is to get them a bed in a bag, a pillow, new linens, curtains, and also clean, well-fitting undergarments, because those are, important to their daily lives.
Of course.
And then alongside of that, we feel like to support the families, we want to do our second initiative, Complete Family Care, kind of rolling off of what Tamara said, is giving them, the support that they need, giving them the products that they need, like the household essentials that they need, the basics that they need, but providing them an education on how to maintain a home. Like, what does that look like? Because when you haven't had a home or you haven't had your own home, there's no basis on that. There's no foundation for that. So nutrition guidance, workshops that provide all of that education to them and the tools that they need to really develop those skills and just help them succeed.
Wow. There's that saying, you can teach someone, or you can give a man, or that's not a man. So you can get someone, you can give someone a fish, feed him for a day, but then you can teach someone how to fish. You can feed them for life.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
So that's, I think that is that something that would be resonant to what you're doing. Yeah. It's that educational piece where it's I think I would wonder if we could maybe pit stop to empathy and imagination and creativity, right? It's the folks that are watching and listening, imagining what it's like to have that, and that's where to be in a situation like this and try to be imaginative and think, well, if I grew up in a certain way, then yes, like you said, like you don't have that foundation how to take care of a home. So you, as Adaptt, are here to supply that educational resourcing and foundation you used. I think both of you used that word. So that's noble. But how does empathy and creativity and imagination? It's kind of a random thought, but I just figured we're having a conversation with the camera on.
Sure.
Where do you find that within yourselves, if it's applicable at all? Even so, if I'm off base here, feel free to stop me. But I feel like that's such a core piece to your mission, is to imagine everyday Joe like me driving down the highway in my car, with living in my home, with never, I guess, candidly not wanting for anything in a way. How do people think more imaginatively so that we can start to see people get more involved in supporting initiatives like this using empathy? Is that something that resonates?
It is. I think that
it's kind of random, but
no, it's not random.
Yeah,
I feel random.
It's real.
I think it's.
I think bringing awareness. To the entire community, just about the perception of homelessness.
Here we go.
We have met fabulous families who are just in a bad spot. We have seen families grow and become employed, and now a part of our program is for them to now be a mentor to another family.
Oh, how cool.
So they have grown and been through what a family has been through, so it's like they're giving back. So I think just bringing awareness and letting folks know, if you have a skill and want to mentor someone, that is something we need businesses to just give an opportunity for somebody to check it out, because we do want to sit down and say, what would you like to do? Yeah. And if they want to go into business or childcare or cooking, let's test it out, because this is what it will be.
Wow.
So just having those opportunities available would be amazing.
So a call to action right there, a little pit stop, right? Watching, and then having the microphone from me, listening, those that are doing both, call to action, how to get involved. At the end of the show, we're going to do kind of how to connect, where to find you, where you find you both in your organization. But that's one of the call to actions, is businesses looking to find skilled and qualified people and give them a chance. Open your doors and give a chance to someone who's going to come and work really hard and want to be a part of your organization. I know that's a big thing these days. Talk about gaps are careers, careers in employment. I know there's a great need for every company that we work with at Incept. It seems like everyone's hiring and recruiting. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I love what you're doing to kind of really empower and bolster these people's opportunity to get involved. So Angela, I need to add to what Tamara said.
I think she covered it really well, but yeah, that's kind of our plan, is to our I guess you could say program is, once we have these families in and we help to guide them and provide them the tools, allow them an opportunity to work with partnering organizations and community businesses, and to give them some sort of an internship or something like that. And then once they are at a place where they're stable and sustainable, to allow them to help another family that needs it. And again, in our experience, a lot of these families tell us, what can we do? How can we help out? Because you guys have helped us out so much. And that's important. Yes. So just continuing that cycle of positivity and motivation.
It's amazing. The accountability piece is so good too, right? We were talking about before we started recording, having that accountability to say, hey, here are the benchmarks. Here are some of the deliverables that you have, to these families, to these folks, is what's going to help them kind of meeting those checkpoints from my side. As I'm learning more about your organization, I think that's so important, and it's unique from what I know of this space, is to have that accountability to keep people kind of guided through the process. One other thing I wanted to stop at too was the stigmas that are associated with homelessness. If I can be totally frank, how many times I've heard people talk about if I give that person money, they're going to go do this or that, and that kills me hearing that, because it's judgmental, it's assumptive, and it's not right. And so that's where I think back to the empathy piece and that imagination. It's you have no idea what it took for this person to get to this corner, right? To this corner, or somewhere in a downtown or an urban setting. You have no idea. So who am I to stop, and say that in my head or out loud? And so I think it's really cool that let me ask you this, what type of awareness are you raising on in terms of homelessness, right? So education for people like me who, again, who are in a pretty decent spot. I mean, we all have our struggles, but is there anything you're doing to educate folks like myself or like us that are not necessarily homeless, but wanting to help and support? Is there something that you're working on there? Kind of ranting. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm talking way too much.
No, it's okay.
I'm really energized about what you're doing.
We are too.
I'm super energized about what you're doing. This is amazing.
We have discussed once we're able to provide a little bit more dedication to Adaptt, when we have a little bit more funding, kind of doing social media campaigns that are guided towards like education to the community, and making like posts, factual posts with statistics and data, to kind of drive that nail that the stigma is real. And I think at one point when I was working in a transitional home, I did some data of my own, and 63% of the moms that we had there were working, and most of them were working in healthcare positions. And often another thing that we hear is, why don't they just get a job? Well, for somebody who doesn't have a house, they don't have an address. You can't get a job without an address. Exactly. A lot of times people that are unhoused don't have identification. You can't get a job without identification. You can't see a doctor without identification. So it goes really deep, and I could talk about it forever. But yeah, these are like definitely things that when we have time to dedicate to, we really want to raise community awareness, because I think that there's a lot of stigma around it.
That's so impactful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we brought that up, just for those that are watching and listening to keep referring back to that. It's someone we can take immediately after listening and watching this episode, is that get a job. Like, to hear those things, and that stat that you kind of homegrown stat that you had in that transitional home, and then about like just basics that people don't think about, right? It's an easy deferral to just say, just go get a job. Like, come on, man, like go work somewhere. But it's like you said, identification, address, those little things. I mean, little things, those things we take for granted.
Yeah.
A lot of people take for granted. Folks that are in their position, they don't have that luxury. So that's really impactful. Tamara, anything to add?
And I would say that if folks have the opportunity to be hands-on, to get involved, when we were at the transitional home, just for folks to come and actually see what's going on. Even the work behind, like, you can give a donation, but we have to go through it. We have to hang it up. We have to do it by size. There's a lot of work behind it. Just being able to function and run case managing a family. So it's just their whole entire life. And it's a lot. And especially if you have 10 families. So just having the mentors, just having another person to, and it's more of an encouragement to the families and support. Sometimes they need to hear, like, you can do this. Like, you got it.
I believe in you.
That makes a world of difference. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You said something there too. Now I'm losing my train of thought. Our greatest teacher is experience. So, and it's funny, I was just sharing with you that I had a conversation. He's actually, this gentleman, Royce Woods, was on the show, Chief Diversity Officer of Evans Bank, just a couple months ago. I was telling about the show today. We were having a coffee catching up. And one of the things we talked about on our podcast was that we shot, back in July, was our greatest teacher is experience. And we were saying that again over there. He just recently donated to a cause. He got involved hands-on, and how much more impactful that is versus just, money's important. That's what fuels the service, the programming. But when you have someone that comes and experiences it at a hand-to-hand kind of exchange and sees it and feels it and sees the emotion, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it might be, that's what resonates most. And then now you almost have a bit of an ambassador and advocate going out, because they're like, man, the work that Adaptt is doing and other services or programs that are out there that are doing similar work, how impactful it is. And we're all people. We're all sharing the human experience. Tamara, so that I believe in you phrase is so important for families to hear, whether it's from yourselves, from folks in the community, from the folks that are in that mentorship role, whether they're a family that's grown out, not out of, but that have grown from when they've started with you at Adaptt to then having a place for themselves and are really growing and accelerating in life. So I believe in you is so important. So Speaking of that, belief of the community, I think too is really important. We talked earlier about that mentorship opportunity, the business support opportunity, internships, apprenticeships, just involvement. Maybe I wonder if even like practice interviews, things like that are important for career opportunities. But there's a point we want to stop at quickly too to the community piece and community collaborations and the fundraising as well.
Yeah.
So community collabs and fundraising. Who wants to take what?
Yeah,
Please.
We really want to work with other organizations, local organizations that have similar values to us and similar missions and goals, to support each other and build each other up. If maybe we don't have something that we can provide a family, we can recommend them to another organization and help them get there, and vice versa. If for instance, Cameron Community Ministries, they are short on something, they need to send a client to us, we'd really be happy to support them and help them out. And also with sorry, I don't remember what I was going to say.
You're good. Eric, pop that too. So it was the community piece and then the fundraising piece too, just to come back.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe Tamara will take fundraising.
Yeah.
So a little 5-second pause and then we'll come back.
Okay.
And I was just going to add to what Angela said also, even like Rock the Peace, because all the violence that's happening in
especially
the city is horrible. So just to be able to connect those children who have lost parents to resources where they're losing an income or something like that, to unfortunately the violence. So we have connected with them on a lot of bases. So it's going to take unity. No agency can do it by themselves. So we want to try to stick together with as many community partners as possible to truly make a change. So we're continuously fundraising because it takes a lot of time to help these families. So we have a few fundraisers. We just had a fundraiser, a basket auction, and it was successful.
Congrats.
Yay.
Congrats.
It's so much fun. They're so much fun.
They really are.
So that was successful. We have applied for grant funding. We've been approved for a grant, but we're always looking for donors through our website or
so grant funding is a huge one. Personal donations is a huge one. Donations from the community, volunteers from the community, and also some board members. If you're passionate about our mission and our values, please contact us. And if it's something that you think that you'd be interested in, we would really love to hear from you and love to work with you.
Awesome.
Yes, that's a great one.
So we've got community collabs, we've got business opportunities to open their doors for internships, opportunities to see what it looks like to work for their organization, fundraising, personal, communal, volunteerism, boards. So these are all great calls to action. We'll make sure we put, I didn't share this before we started recording, but in the show notes, it's one of my favorite things to say. If you watch any of the podcasts we release, I'm constantly saying, that'll be in the show notes. That's like a GIF I think that needs to come out of me, like going like, that's going to be in the show notes, because I say it so often, but it'll be in the show notes. So maybe, as we kind of wrap up our great conversation here, how do we connect? Where do we find you, kind of thing, and just maybe highlighting where people could maybe learn more and donate and stuff like that would be great.
So we have our website, which is www.adaptrochester.com.
That's with 2 T's. We'll put it in the notes.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes,
yeah, you got
definitely.
It. I'll put it in the
Thanks
notes.
for catching that.
That's
That's
right.
great.
I'll put it in the notes.
And we have social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram. We are on LinkedIn, and we have our general email, which is adapt2ts.rochester@gmail.com. We like to hear from people. So
so website, ways to get involved, donate. That's all there. Anything else to add?
No.
How about just some lasting words of wisdom, if there's anything that comes to mind for folks that are listening this might be new to them. Like I mentioned in the beginning with that billboard I saw, right? Hunger is hard to spot. I think sometimes maybe even homelessness or unhoused might unhoused folks might be sometimes hard to spot. Obviously, there's some cases where you see on the street, again, that typical person maybe on the corner that's looking for help or whatever, but maybe some lasting words of support or wisdom for folks that are watching and listening.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cliche, but you never know what somebody's going through, so just be kind to everybody, and as Tamara said, reach out, volunteer, get to know people. Once you hear somebody's story, you might feel completely differently than you initially thought. That's
where the empathy comes in. Gotta have it, that experience. Thank you. That's great. Tamara, anything?
Yeah, and I would just say, change begins with each of us. We can't change everything at once, but if you pour into one kid, one family, it trickles and it builds into something stronger for all of our futures. And just Adapt is, supporting purpose, and we're trying to build strong foundations for families.
That's awesome. The power of one and ripple effects, just to finish with, right? It just takes one. Sometimes we think we want to have such a big impact. How do I impact the most people? But sometimes it's go micro level, impact one person, one young person, one family, and see what that can do then to the neighboring folks in their network, right? To see that one young man or young lady, really be impacted positively in school, and see them kind of start to support their peers and maybe start helping out more in the house and the family. It's that imagination piece, that power of one, and the ripple effects, like you mentioned, trickle down. So a lot of good information here, a lot of good energy, super cool impact. Never been a greater time for this type of service, this programming. So again, a hearty thanks to both of you for coming in, for making the ride from Rochester.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. Glad. And this started some months ago because Eric connected us, and the day's finally here. So really enjoyed this. Looking forward to staying in touch. With your website and anything else we can do to support at Incept, we're all in, and I'll just say that lightly. And I was going to say too, I do have a connection for you. I'll share it off air, but they've actually been on. They've sat at this exact table in this exact format because there's two founders as well. They're a startup company that helps folks first gen and low income to stay in school through micro grants.
Wonderful.
So I think there could be some collaborative stuff there. But yeah, so thank you both again.
Thank you.
This is Adapt Rochester that we featured today, and another great Incept Connect podcast where we talk about the intersection of building community, building commerce, and how it can help accelerate growth in all of our lives. So we'll see you on the next show. Safe ride back to Rochester.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.